When I Fall by Scarlet Emerald 32. Chapter 12.
I got him.
Talisa and Eugene walked behind Abraham into Rick's dining room. Talisa saw that Rick, Michonne, Carl, Glenn, and Maggie were all seated at the table, and Daryl was leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. Seated at the head of the table, looking around at them all cautiously, was a man she'd never seen before. He wore a gray beanie and had long shoulder-length brown hair and a beard.
"Who's he?"
she asked, taking a seat next to Maggie as Eugene moved to stand behind her.
"That's the asshole who stole our truck and crashed it in a lake. He's supposed to be tied up in that empty house on the end of the block."
Also known as Jesus,
the man said, and Talisa raised an eyebrow.
Jesus? Really? Gotta say, with the way everything's gone down, I thought you'd be showing up a little earlier.
He chuckled appreciatively.
My actual name is Paul, but I got the nickname for
He motioned vaguely to his appearance.
obvious reasons.
All right, then.
Rick leaned his elbows on the table and looked at the newcomer.
You said we should talk, so let's talk. How'd you get out?
One guard can't cover 2 exits, or third-floor windows. Knots untie and locks get picked. Entropy comes from order, right?
Rick sighed and shook his head.
Right.
Jesus sat back in his chair and observed them all with an almost quizzical expression. He didn't seem at all threatened by how outnumbered he was. If anything, he seemed passively amused.
So I checked out your armory. I haven't seen anything like that in a long time. You're well equipped, but your provisions are low, very low for the amount of people you have. I'd say about 54.
More,
Maggie said pointedly, and he raised an eyebrow at her. She kept her face impassive, and after a moment of trying to read her, Jesus smirked.
Well, thanks for the cookie then. My compliments to the chef.
Yeah, she ain't here.
Jesus shot a glance over to where Daryl was still glowering.
Look, we got off to a bad start, but we're on the same side, the living side.
He looked around at them all significantly before bringing his gaze back to Daryl.
You and Rick had every reason to leave me out there, but you didn't. I'm from a place that's a lot like this one. Part of my job is searching out other settlements to trade with. I took your truck because my community needs things, and both of you looked like trouble.
He looked directly at Rick now.
I was wrong. You're good people. This is a good place, and I think our communities can help each other.
Do you have food?
We've started to raise livestock. We scavenge and we grow. Everything from tomatoes to sorghum.
Everyone at the table looked around at each other significantly. Talisa knew they were all thinking the same thing, but it was Rick who finally voiced it out loud.
Tell us why we should believe you.
I'll show you if you want. If we take a car, I can take you back home in a day, and you can see for yourself who we are and what we have to offer.
Wait, you said you're looking for more settlements. Does that mean you're already trading with other groups?
Jesus looked up at her and gave a small smile.
Your world is about to get a whole lot bigger.
Here's some high-protein snacks for the road.
Denise handed a bag to Talisa.
And will you make sure Daryl eats his too? I'm afraid he's going to try and roast a squirrel on the RV's engine or something.
Talisa laughed.
Yeah, I'm on it.
Denise walked away, and as she did, Eugene walked up to her. He put his hands on both of her shoulders, and she placed hers lightly on his waist as she looked up at him.
Remember, Tara and Rosita are in charge of security while we're gone, but you and Aaron are still the ranking council members.
Well, seeing as the duration of your trip is not set to exceed 36 hours, it's highly unlikely any serious game time decisions will need to be made in your absence. But if such a scenario were to occur, I assure you we would do our very best to handle it.
I know you will, Eugene. Just be safe, okay?
She wrapped her arms around him, hugging him tightly.
That is advice I should be giving to you, seeing as you are the one leaving the safety of these walls, and I expect to find you safely back inside them in 2 days' time.
That's the plan.
She leaned up to kiss his cheek.
See you soon, haircut.
She gave him one more quick hug and then hopped into the RV, taking a seat between Jesus and Glenn and across from Daryl and Abraham.
Your boyfriend is quite an interesting character. Love the mullet.
Jesus commented as the RV rolled through the gates.
He's not my boyfriend.
Oh, my mistake. You guys just seemed pretty chummy with that goodbye.
Talisa caught the suppressed smiles on both Abraham and Daryl, who were pointedly looking anywhere but at her, and she glared at them.
Shut up, both of you.
I didn't say anything. You say something, Daryl?
Nope, I didn't say nothing.
Yeah, well, let's keep it that way.
They both went back to looking out the window. After about 10 minutes, Jesus wandered towards the back of the RV, giving Talisa enough space to settle down into the seat and close her eyes. She must have fallen asleep, and she wasn't sure exactly how many hours had passed when she was suddenly awakened by the sound of Abraham's coarse whispering.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
She cracked one eye open ever so slightly and saw him leaning over close to Glenn.
Sure?
When you were, pouring the Bisquick, were you trying to make biscuits?
There was a long pause after his question, and Talisa had to press her lips together to keep from laughing. Finally, Glenn spoke again, his voice thick with confusion.
Yes?
She felt him shift next to her as he leaned forward.
I mean, it's something we talked about. So yeah, why do you ask?
To be perfectly honest, given the precarious state of affairs on any given Sunday, I am damn near floored that you or anyone else would have the cojones to make that kind of decision.
Talisa opened her eyes slowly, curious to see what Glenn's response might be. He was leaned forward with his elbows on his knees, and he glanced over at his wife, who was also asleep, before he spoke again.
Well, we're trying to build something. Me and her. We all are. That's the point, right?
From the corner of her eye, Talisa saw Rick, who was driving, reach over and put his hand on Michonne's knee, where she sat in the passenger seat. She covered his hand with hers and smiled. Talisa raised her eyebrows in shock and quickly looked around to see if anyone else had noticed the exchange. She locked eyes with Daryl, who gave her the tiniest hint of a smile and shrug as if to say, "Well, how about that?" Glenn and Abraham were too preoccupied with their own conversation to have noticed anything.
For the record, I see rain coming. I'm wearing galoshes. I double up, in fact.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Daryl was spared Abraham's rebuttal as Rick suddenly stopped the RV. Talisa stood and walked to the front.
What is it?
We got a crash just ahead. Looks like it just happened.
That's one of ours.
Jesus had run up from the back of the RV and was now yanking open the door. The others followed him out, and Rick leveled his gun at the back of Jesus' head.
If this is a trap, it won't end well for you.
Jesus turned back to him, looking frustrated and afraid.
Look, my people are in trouble. We don't have many fighters. I know how this looks, but I'll play it out myself, okay? Can I borrow a gun?
No.
Daryl said immediately, but then he nodded towards the ground a few feet away from them.
We got tracks right there.
They all followed Daryl, keeping their weapons up and staying constantly on alert for activity. The trail led them to an abandoned building whose front door looked to have been recently broken in.
They gotta be in there. So are we going in or what?
How do we know this ain't just firecrackers in a trash can?
You don't, but it's not, and they need our help.
Rick looked up at the building for another minute and then nodded.
All right, we'll go get your people. But you're staying out here with one of us. That's the deal.
Jesus rolled his eyes slightly in frustration, but then nodded in agreement. Rick pulled out his handcuffs and pinned his hands behind his back. Glenn looked over at Maggie.
You good to do it?
Sure.
She leveled her gun at him.
I'm gonna stay with her. Better to have 2 on 1.
Rick nodded.
If you hear me whistle, you shoot him.
I will.
Rick and the others went into the house with their guns raised. Minutes ticked by, and they didn't hear any sounds coming from inside. Jesus didn't turn or acknowledge them.
If they're in there, he'll get them out. Rick doesn't leave people behind.
I appreciate that, but try and put yourself in my shoes for a minute. Those are my people I care about in there, and I'm sitting out here completely powerless to help them.
I'm sure that feels awful. But you have to put yourself in our shoes too. We don't take chances anymore. The world has gotten too cruel for that. We have to make sure our people stay safe as well. Can you understand that?
Yes, I can. So, we both understand where the other is coming from, and nobody is happy about it.
Seems that way, doesn't it?
After another minute, they heard bangs and shouts from upstairs. Jesus looked up in concern, but seconds later, Rick came running out of the house beside a man with sandy blonde hair, and Abraham and Daryl were close behind, carrying another man between them with a bloody leg.
Harlan, Freddie, are you guys okay?
They're fine. Let's get back on the road.
Rick came over and unlocked the handcuffs so Jesus could climb back in the RV with them. They traveled another hour or so with their new passengers sitting quietly beside them, when the sandy-haired man pulled his pack towards him and began sorting through the contents. He pulled out several pill bottles and lined them up on the counter.
My name's Harlan, by the way.
He extended his hand to Maggie, who sat across from him at the dinette table, and she accepted it.
I'm Maggie, and this is my husband, Glenn.
He nodded from his place standing behind her.
Well, we're bringing back a lot of medication, so you may have saved more people than just us back there, Glenn.
You're a doctor?
Yeah, that's right, I am.
You got any prenatal vitamins in there?
Glenn looked down at Maggie, who smiled back, and Harlan looked between them both.
For you?
She nodded.
Well, believe it or not, I was an obstetrician before, and I most definitely owe you one. I'd say you two just hit the jackpot.
Talisa turned back towards the front of the RV and saw Jesus sitting with the second man. They put a tourniquet around his knee, but he was still staring off into space, and he looked very pale.
You okay, Freddie?
For a minute back there, when I thought he was gonna...
He shot a furtive look at Abraham, who looked away quickly.
I saw my wife. She died before all this, and when I thought it was all over, there she was, clear as day.
Talisa saw a strange look pass across Abraham's face as he shifted uncomfortably and stared pointedly out the window. She turned back to the man in front of her and put a hand on his good knee.
It's Freddie, right?
He nodded.
Well, Freddie, my name's Talisa. I lost my husband too. Not before, but it's been over a year now. I see him all the time. I see him in little ways every day, and sometimes I swear he's right beside me, just standing around a corner or waiting in the next room. Seeing them is our way of knowing they're always with us. When you saw your wife today, that's her way of letting you know she's always with you, and when your time does come, she'll be right there waiting. But I very much doubt she'd want you to show up earlier than necessary. What do you think?
Freddie smirked slightly, and his eyes began to droop. They'd given him some painkillers, and they were obviously starting to take effect.
Nah, she was always on my case about being on time.
Well, there you go then.
Freddie slowly closed his eyes, and after a minute, his breathing became slow and even. Jesus looked up at her curiously.
What was that?
She's a shrink.
Abraham explained without looking away from the window.
Talking people through their shit is in the job description.
While he's not exactly wrong with that assessment, that was more of a connecting on a human being to human being level than it was a psychiatry tactic.
A psychiatrist, huh? Gotta say, that's something we definitely don't have. I can imagine you've got your work cut out for you with the way everything is now.
Talisa gave a derisive snort and shook her head.
You're not wrong.
The RV suddenly ground to a stop, and they heard the sounds of the tires spinning as the engine revved.
Damn it. A storm must have come through here. We're stuck.
No matter.
Jesus peeked through the blinds on his side of the RV.
We're here.
They all got out of the RV and looked up the small hill in front of them to a wall of corrugated metal that stretched off in both directions around the base of the hill. Talisa could see what looked like the roof of an old historic mansion just peeking over the top of the fence.
That's us. That's the Hilltop.
They began their trek up the hill towards the gate, with Jesus and Harlan carrying Freddie between them.
Now, when we get up there, you're going to have to let me do the talking. We're good people, but we've been burned. Not all the groups out there are as nice as you people. Our leader's name is Gregory, and I'm not going to lie to you. He can be a bit of a pill, but he'll listen. You just have to know the right things to say.
They'd reached the gates. Two men with spears were looking down at them from the guard towers on either side.
Stop right there!
You gonna make us?
Daryl snapped back, and Talisa gave him a nudge with her shoulder.
Dial it back.
Jesus, what the hell is this?
The second man on the gate asked.
Just open the gate, Cal. Freddy's hurt.
He looked back over his shoulder at all of them.
Sorry about this. They get antsy standing up there all day.
They give up the weapons, then we'll open the gate.
How about you come down here and take them?
Daryl, come on.
You think I'm gonna take orders from some punk ass with a homemade spear?
Harlan transferred Freddy's weight to Jesus and stepped forward, raising his hands in appeasement.
Gentlemen, please, we vouch for these people, all right? They saved us out there.
Just lower the spears.
Look, I'm not taking any chances. You tell them to get your guy Gregory to come out here.
Jesus shook his head and sighed.
No. Don't you see what just happened? Look, I'm letting you keep your guns. I like you people. I trust you. Trust us. Please?
After another long moment, Rick sighed and nodded his head in agreement.
Open the gate, Cal.
This time, the gate slowly creaked open in front of them. Talisa was floored as she looked around. She was forcibly reminded of the time she and JP had gone to Colonial Williamsburg years ago. It was as if she'd stepped back in time. There was a functioning blacksmith and water-powered sawmill to her left. She saw rows upon rows of gardens, overflowing with food, a chicken coop, and even a barn where she heard the unmistakable sounds of cows mooing. Along the far right fence was a row of at least a dozen single-wide trailers.
Hey, thanks again.
She looked back to see Harlan waving goodbye to Maggie and Glenn.
Come and see me whenever. I'm just over there in the medical trailer, okay?
He pointed to the trailer at the end of the row, and Maggie and Glenn nodded in agreement.
There's a materials yard for a power company nearby. That's how we put the walls up. A lot of people came here from a FEMA camp, and the trailers came with them.
How did people find out about this place?
Jesus stopped walking and pointed up at the house.
That is called Barrington House. The family who owned it sold it to the state back in the 30s, and they turned it into a living history museum. Every elementary school for 50 miles around used to come here on field trips.
Holy shit. I remember this place. I came here once, years ago. I didn't recognize it because everything is so different now.
This place was running a long time before the modern world built up around it. I guess people figured it'd keep running even after the world broke down. The windows up there at the top let us see for miles around. Perfect for security. Come on, I'll show you inside.
Jesus led them through the huge double front doors into an entrance hall that was almost as big as Talisa's entire house back in Alexandria. All the finery and antique furniture looked as if it hadn't been touched, and the grand staircase wound its way up to the second floor in front of them.
Good gracious Ignatius.
Abraham looked slowly around at all the paintings on the walls.
Most of the rooms have been converted into living spaces, even the ones that weren't originally bedrooms.
People live here and in the trailers.
And we're planning on expanding. There's babies being born.
The doors of the room to their left opened suddenly, and a man with a receding hairline and salt and pepper beard stepped out.
Jesus, you're back.
His face fell slightly as he looked around at the others.
With guests?
Everyone, this is Gregory. He keeps the trains running around here.
I'm the boss.
Gregory raised his hands importantly as he looked around at them again, as if challenging someone to disagree. Rick stepped forward.
Well, I'm Rick. We have a community that...
Why don't y'all go get cleaned up?
They all looked from Rick and back to Gregory, waiting to take a cue from him as to what to do. Talisa saw a muscle in Rick's jaw tick slightly as he turned his gaze back to Gregory.
We're fine, thanks.
Gregory stepped forward so he was standing directly in front of Rick as he spoke again.
Jesus will show you where you can get washed up. You can come back when you're ready.
He shot a dismissive look around at all of them before bringing his gaze back to Rick.
It's hard to keep this place clean.
The muscle was twitching like mad now as Rick clenched his jaw and took a deep, calming breath.
Sure.
Gregory smiled, patting his arm and heading back into the office. Jesus glared at his back as he went before turning back to the others.
I'll show you the way.
As they climbed the stairs, Rick looked over his shoulder at Maggie and Talisa.
You two get cleaned up first. I want you to talk to him.
Why?
Because I shouldn't.
Jesus led them to a small bathroom and provided them with washcloths, soap, and a basin of water. As Talisa began wiping down her face, she looked over at Maggie.
I think you should be the one to talk to him.
Rick said we should both go.
Maggie wiped down the back of her neck and twisted her hair up.
I know, but Gregory strikes me as the type who won't appreciate feeling ganged up on. One-on-one is better.
Well, if that's the case, it should be you. You're the one who's got the negotiating skills. You have training.
Maggie.
Talisa put a hand on her arm.
It needs to be you, because you can do this just as well as I can. Deanna believed in you. She wanted you to be part of leading our community. I believe in you too. You can do this.
Maggie looked at her for a long moment and then nodded. They finished washing up and then walked back out on the landing where Michonne, Rick, and Glenn were standing.
Maggie's gonna go talk to him. We both think it's better if just one of us takes care of the negotiations. She's got this.
I know she does.
Maggie gave him a grateful smile as she and Talisa turned to walk back down the stairs.
Just be careful. A guy like Gregory wants to be flattered, and that's fine to an extent. But don't let him get away with anything, and make sure you call him on his bullshit. He's always going to want to have the upper hand, but you have to make him see that you are here to play ball, and you won't be manipulated.
I got it. I won't let you down, I promise.
Never thought you would for a second.
Talisa gave her hand a squeeze as she walked up and knocked on the door.
Gregory?
Natalie, right?
Maggie, actually.
Oh, well, that's pretty close.
No, not really.
She shut the door behind her and Talisa grinned. She moved to where Daryl was leaning against the window frame, watching the people outside.
That guy's a prick.
He sure is. But I mean, he seems like the kind of guy who was probably a politician back in the day. You ever see one of those that wasn't a prick?
Daryl chuckled slightly and shook his head.
Nah, not really.
He looked over his shoulder at Abraham, who was sitting on one of the couches in the back of the room, fiddling with the strap on his rifle.
There's something going on with him.
What do you mean?
He's saying some weird shit. Asking me if I ever thought about settling down, and he's been off ever since we left.
Yeah, he's been off for a little while now. I'll keep an eye on him, but as long as he's just weirdly introspective, I think we have bigger fish to fry.
Got no idea what the hell that first part means, but I agree with the second part.
He pushed himself off the wall as Maggie walked back out of the office.
I assume by the shortness of that meeting it didn't go well?
Maggie took a deep breath and shook her head in obvious frustration.
You assume correctly. Let's go upstairs so we can talk with everyone.
We want to generate trade. We do. I know Gregory does, but ammo isn't a priority for us right now.
How is that possible?
The walls hold, and the doctor just got back with medicine. Gregory just wants to make the best deal possible.
Yeah. Well, we want things too.
We need food. We've come all this way. We're not leaving without it.
I'll talk to him. We're going to work this out. Circumstances change. We're doing well now. You will be next. We need each other. I'll make him understand that. Can you please just give me a few days?
They all looked around at each other significantly, but it was Michonne that finally spoke.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
Jesus turned and walked back down the stairs.
They're expecting us home tomorrow. If we don't turn up, they're going to think the worst.
Abraham smirked at her.
He'll be fine, Talisa. Absence makes the heart grow fonder and all that shit.
Suddenly, the doors downstairs banged open, and a man came running in. They all jumped up and ran down the stairs at the same time as Gregory emerged from his office.
What's wrong?
They're back.
Gregory and Jesus ran out the front door, and after a quick glance, the others followed behind them. 2 unknown men and a woman were standing just inside the gate. Gregory ran down to them, looking around in confusion.
Nathan, what happened to everyone else? Where's Tim and Marcia?
They're dead.
Negan?
Nathan nodded.
But we had a deal.
He said it wasn't enough. Was the drop light?
Of course it wasn't.
Gregory rubbed his hand across his face and sighed.
They still have Craig.
They said they'd keep him alive and give him back to us if I delivered a message to you.
Okay, what is it?
Nathan walked up to him and put a hand on his shoulder.
I'm sorry.
It seemed as if it all happened at once. 1 minute things were calm, the next they were chaos. Nathan pulled a metal shank from the waistband of his jeans and plunged it into Gregory's stomach. People began to scream as Gregory collapsed, and Talisa instinctually dropped to her knees beside him and put pressure on the wound. Rick dove, tackling Nathan to the ground and rolling away from them. And as the second man ran to help his friend, his head was snapped back by a brutal right hook from Abraham, and the 2 of them also went sprawling onto the ground.
Is he okay?
Daryl looked down at Gregory.
I don't know. I need the doctor.
From their left, they heard an awful gurgling sound, and they looked over to see that the second man had Abraham pinned to the ground and was attempting to choke him to death while Abraham laughed.
Daryl!
He needed no more prompting. He ran over and aimed a well-placed kick into the man's ribs, sending him flying off of Abraham.
You good?
Abraham grinned up at him.
Better than all right.
He took the hand Daryl offered him.
Drop it!
Talisa's head whipped back around to where Michonne was now standing with her sword drawn, looking down at Nathan, who had Rick pinned under him with a knife to his throat.
Stay back. Anybody who tries to stop me is killing my brother.
Nathan's words were cut off as Rick grabbed the metal shank off the ground and plunged it into his neck. More screams filled the air as Rick pushed Nathan's now limp body off of him and stood up. He looked around at all the horrified faces, and then down at his own blood-soaked clothes.
What?
He said brusquely, as if defying them to tell him he was wrong.
He killed Nathan!
The man who'd attacked Abraham yelled, and he made a move towards Rick. But before he could take more than 2 steps, Rick had his revolver out and level with his face. Everyone froze.
He tried to kill Gregory, and then me.
Rick swung around quickly as another man started moving towards him from the left.
Don't.
Drop it now!
The first man yelled, and Rick turned back and pointed the gun at him with a sneer.
No, I don't think I will.
All right, enough.
Jesus ran between the 2 men holding his hands up.
Everyone, this is over. Nathan was our friend, but let's not pretend he was anything more than a coward who attacked us. He did this, and these people stopped it.
Everyone was silent. They were still looking warily from Rick to Jesus, but no one moved forward or argued against what Jesus had said. He looked back at Rick with an imploring expression.
What do you need me to do?
Just put the gun away. You've done enough.
Rick obliged immediately, uncocking his revolver and slipping it back into its holster. Talisa heard footsteps and looked up to see Harlan running over. He knelt beside her and carefully removed her hands from the wound as Gregory groaned.
What happened?
Stab wound. The blade was short, and I don't think it got any internal organs. I'm not seeing a lot of dark blood.
You a doctor?
Psychiatrist. Got the basics from med school, but that's about it.
Well, in this case, I think your diagnosis is perfect, Doctor. Roy, Jacob, help me get Gregory over to the med trailer, and I'll get him stitched up.
2 men came over and lifted Gregory off the ground as he groaned again. Jesus motioned to the others, and they all walked up the path towards where Talisa now stood with Maggie and Glenn.
We need to get you guys back in the house for now. I meant what I said about you being the ones to defuse the situation, but it's probably better to give them some time, and we definitely need to talk. As you may have noticed, things are more complicated here than they might appear.
They all trudged back up the hill, and Jesus led them into the room that was opposite Gregory's office. It turned out to be a library. He looked around at them from the doorway.
I'm going to go check on Gregory. Then I'll be back and we can talk. Please, just stay here while we sort this out. Talisa, Rick, there should be another basin of water in the half bath through that door if you want to clean up.
Talisa looked down at her blood-soaked hands and nodded. Jesus left the room and closed the door behind him.
We've been here less than 2 hours, and I already have their leader's blood on my hands. That's got to be some kind of record.
You two go get cleaned up and then we'll talk.
When they walked out of the bathroom a few minutes later, Talisa noted that everyone had spread throughout the room. Glenn and Abraham were sitting in the chairs by the fireplace, and Daryl was next to Abraham leaning against it. Michonne was perched on the edge of an antique desk in the corner, and Maggie stood by the window, looking out over the grounds.
So what the hell happened out there?
They were talking about a drop. They're giving supplies to someone else.
Negan.
Daryl gave Abraham a significant look.
He said they were giving them to Negan.
Yeah, I heard.
Does that name mean something to you?
Back when we were on our way back from playing Pied Piper with that horde, we crossed paths with a group. Real assholes. They said they were gonna take half our shit, that it belonged to Negan now, and they said they were gonna kill one of us. So we got the message.
How'd you get away?
'Cause we had a rocket launcher they didn't know about.
Damn, yeah, that would do it.
Daryl gave her an appreciative smirk.
Once we got home, we waited to see if anything came of it. But after a few weeks, when no one came knocking, we figured we got away clean.
Well, even if you did, it doesn't seem like these people have been so lucky.
They all looked up as Jesus walked back through the door.
Dr. Carson was able to patch Gregory up. He's in pain, but he'll live.
So what happens now?
Things like that don't usually happen around here, but it's settled now.
We heard the name Negan. Daryl and Abraham had a run-in with his men a while back. Who is he?
Jesus sighed deeply and ran his hands through his hair. When he spoke again, Talisa noticed how tired he sounded.
He's the leader of a group called the Saviors. As soon as the walls were built, the Saviors showed up. They met with Gregory on behalf of their boss. They made a lot of demands, and even more threats. And then he
took another deep breath.
He killed one of us, Rory. He was 16. He beat him to death right in front of us.
Oh my God.
Jesus met her eye with a sad and bitter smile.
He said we needed to understand, right off the bat. Gregory's never been one for confrontation. He's not the leader I would have chosen, but he made this place what it is, and the people like him.
So he made the deal.
Jesus nodded.
Half of everything, our supplies, our crops, our livestock, it all goes to the Saviors.
And what do you get in return?
They don't attack us. They don't kill us.
So why don't you kill them?
Most of the people here don't know how to fight, even if we did have ammo.
Well, how many people does Negan have?
We don't know. We've seen groups as big as 20.
So wait, hold on. They show up, kill a kid, and you just give them half of everything?
Daryl gave a derisive snort and shook his head.
All these dicks got is a good story. Boogeyman ain't shit.
How do you know that?
About a month ago, we took out his guy's PDQ. Left him in pieces and puddles. We can get it done.
If we do this, if we go get your man back, take out his guys, you gonna hook us up?
Daryl looked pointedly at Jesus.
We'll want food, medicine, and one of them cows.
Jesus looked from him to Rick in shock, obviously never having considered that what they were proposing could be possible. Rick smirked slightly.
We've never had an issue with confrontation.
So are we really talking about taking out another group en masse?
Talisa said quietly to Maggie and Glenn as they waited for Jesus to come back again. He'd said he would give their proposal to Gregory, and they had been waiting for him to return for about 20 minutes.
I know it seems intense, but as much as I hate to say it, It's not the first time we've had to do something like this. Not every group out there is good. You wouldn't believe some of the stuff we've seen.
And if what Jesus is telling us is true, and I believe it is, these saviors are preying on other communities, killing the innocent, and taking more than their share. If we want to build the future we're working towards, groups like that can't be part of it.
I know, it's just a lot.
Toppling a violent dictatorship, not what you had planned for your weekend?
I mean, it was an option, but I was leaning more towards mini golf and laser tag.
They both chuckled as Jesus walked back into the room and nodded first to them, and then to the balcony where Rick and Michonne were standing. They all followed him out.
Gregory's up, and he wants to talk.
Rick took a step towards him, but he put up his hand to stop him.
He wants to talk to Maggie.
They all turned to look at her, and she gave a resigned shrug and nodded. Talisa gave her arm a squeeze.
You got this.
Deanna was right about you.
Several hours later, Talisa was helping Michonne load the last of the crates into the back of the RV. She looked out the back window at the trailer that was now hitched to it as well.
I still can't believe she did it. Half of everything they have. These saviors must be a bigger issue than we even realized.
I can't wait to see the look on Olivia's face when we show up with a goat and a cow.
And the cow is pregnant. We're going to have our very own petting zoo if we're not careful.
They both laughed, but as she was stacking the last of the crates, Michonne paused, running her hand along the grain of the wood and sighing.
You're worried, aren't you?
When Michonne met her eye, she could see she was correct in her assessment.
Do you think you guys won't be able to get it done? Taking care of the saviors?
No, we'll get it done. But stuff like this, it always comes at a price. I'm not naive enough to think we're going to walk away from this unscathed, and I feel like we've already lost too much. I'm not sure we can take losing much more.
But isn't that the exact reason why we're doing this? Believe me, I don't like this plan much either, but it seems to me the reason this risk is necessary is because of how much we stand to lose.
Michonne chuckled slightly and shook her head.
You're right, and if there's one thing we've proven up until this point, it's that we'll do anything we have to protect what is ours.
Gotta say, I sure am glad I'm counted on that list now.
Michonne gave her a genuine smile and covered Talisa's hand with hers briefly before they both turned back towards the front of the RV where everyone else was piling on. The last two to come through the door were Jesus and the man who had been with Nathan.
Everyone, this is Mark. He's the one who's been heading up their drops to the saviors. He's agreed to come back with us and help us formulate a plan.
Mark raised a hand in awkward greeting, and they all nodded to him. Then he and Jesus headed for the back of the RV and took seats in the small amount of space still available amidst the supplies. Daryl flopped down on Talisa's right, and Abraham sat down on her left. Michonne took a seat next to Glenn as the RV roared to life and began to rumble down the road. After only about a half hour, Maggie's eyes began to droop, and her head slowly fell onto Glenn's shoulder. Glenn saw Talisa watching her and smiled.
It's hard work negotiating kick-ass deals with narcissistic pricks.
Glenn smiled even more widely as he turned slightly to brush the hair back from Maggie's face as she slept.
Yeah, but she handled it like a pro.
She sure did. Guess we know who's gonna be laying down the law when that bun of yours is done baking.
Oh hey, that reminds me.
Glenn pulled a photo out of his pocket and handed it to Michonne, who immediately grinned. After looking at it for a minute, she leaned across the aisle and handed it to Daryl, who also smiled. Talisa shifted so she could look at it over his shoulder. It was a sonogram. The baby was too small to have any real distinct shape, but it was there, clear as day, a perfect little jelly bean.
Amazing.
Talisa rested her chin lightly against Daryl's shoulder as they looked at it together. He gave a small huff of agreement. He looked past her toward Abraham and handed the photo to him so he could see. Abraham took it and stared at it for a long time. To Talisa's surprise, she thought she saw tears forming in his eyes. She scooted away from Daryl towards him and lowered her voice so only he could hear her.
Hey, are you okay? You've seemed a little intense lately. I'm well aware that intense is kinda your MO in a lot of circumstances, but this feels different.
Yeah, I'm good.
He took a deep breath.
Just realizing there's a whole hell of a lot I thought I knew. And it turns out I didn't have a damn clue.
When I Fall is a work of fiction based on AMC's The Walking Dead. Any characters not created by the author are the property of said company. The story will continue in the next chapter.